The Arctic is a land of silence broken only by the wind. Under a sky stretched tight with white light, the world glows in tones of frost and emptiness. A frozen ocean extends to the horizon, fractured by pressure ridges and pockets of open water that steam in the frigid air. Amid this desolate canvas, a single movement reveals life, barely visible but unmistakable. A polar bear, Ursus maritimus, pads across the ice, its massive paws spreading weight over the brittle surface like snowshoes designed by evolution. The bear is male, a loner, gaunt from the lean months, and alert in the way only the hungry can be. It is not wandering. It is hunting. Each step lands softly, yet each decision is precise. Polar bears are not aimless roamers of the north. They are mobile ambush machines, hardwired to detect the invisible. Beneath their feet, hidden by a meter-thick crust of snow and ice, ringed seals breathe through narrow holes in the frozen ceiling of the sea. The bear's sense of smell is so refined it can detect the scent of a seal nearly a kilometer away, even through solid ice. This one halts, raises its long neck, and tests the air with slow, deliberate inhales. Nostrils flare. The ice tells stories in silence, and the bear reads every page. To the untrained eye, the ice seems unbroken, but to the bear, a faint yellow tinge beneath the snow or a subtle vibration underfoot could mean a seal has recently surfaced. Some polar bears spend hours or even days lying perfectly still beside a breathing hole, waiting for the seal to return. Others choose to prowl, checking multiple holes in succession, gambling that their timing and endurance will converge. This bear chooses the latter, less patience, more movement. It sniffs, listens, then lowers its head and begins a slow crawl toward a black circle about 100 meters ahead, an active seal hole. The bear's gait shifts to minimize sound. It flattens its body and glides forward like a ghost, massive yet quiet, its translucent fur catching sunlight in dull glimmers. The paws, each the size of a dinner plate, press softly into the crust, distributing weight to avoid cracks that might betray its approach. It stops, waits, breathes in, then moves again. This is the ballet of Arctic predation, not a chase but a test of nerve, patience, and the mastery of timing. Beneath the ice, the seal swims in slow circles, surfacing briefly at intervals to breathe. It is unaware that death now waits just inches above. For polar bears, the seal is more than a meal. It's the cornerstone of survival. One adult ringed seal can provide the fat reserves needed to sustain a bear for several days, sometimes weeks. But seals are fast and slippery in the water, and if they sense danger, they vanish into underwater escape tunnels they've carved throughout their frozen habitat. That's why most successful hunts happen at the breathing hole, when the seal is forced to break the surface and inhale. The instant it does, the bear must strike with a speed that belies its size, slamming down with enough force to shatter ice and grip the seal before it can react. But today, the hole remains empty. The bear waits, lowering its bulk beside the opening, resting its chin on the ice as if asleep. Minutes pass, then hours. Still nothing. The wind sharpens, and snow begins to drift across the ice, brushing the bear's back until it becomes a mound of white, indistinguishable from the landscape. This is camouflage by stillness, a method used not just by the polar bear, but by the land itself. Yet still, no seal surfaces. Eventually, hunger forces the bear to rise again, and it moves on with no visible frustration, conserving energy. Each failed hunt is part of the rhythm. Polar bears succeed in only about 1 out of every 5 stalking attempts. Farther along the ice, the terrain shifts. Pressure ridges, jagged heaves of shattered sea ice, form miniature mountains across the frozen ocean. These structures can hide seal dens, especially during pupping season. In early spring, pregnant seals dig shallow chambers under snowdrifts along the ridges, giving birth to pups in relative warmth. To the polar bear, this is a seasonal jackpot. The bear climbs the ridge, nose to the snow, detecting faint warmth rising through the powder. With no warning, it explodes into motion, smashing down with both front paws. The snow collapses. A whimper escapes. The bear's snout dives into the hole and emerges with a squirming silver-furred pup. The kill is fast, almost anticlimactic. The bear devours the pup, starting with the blubber-rich skin. This isn't cruelty. It's precision. The Arctic allows no waste. The energy gained from this meal barely compensates for the hours spent hunting it, and the energy to come as temperatures drop and storms return. For every successful den raid, there are many the bear will find already empty or long abandoned. Contrary to their solitary reputation, polar bears sometimes gather at rich feeding sites, like whale carcasses or seal haulouts, where dozens might feed in uneasy truce. But here, out on the pack ice, it is solitude that rules. Males are especially isolated, prone to covering hundreds of kilometers in search of prey or mates. Some bears wear scars from past fights, territorial disputes, mating battles, or even clashes over kills. The cold keeps wounds clean, but infection still claims many lives. The camera pans to the bear's paws, pads covered in tiny rough papillae, giving traction on the slick ice. Its fur is not truly white, but hollow and translucent, scattering light to create the illusion of snow itself walking. Beneath a thick layer of black skin traps sunlight, and a dense layer of fat insulates the organs. Every part of this creature has been shaped by ice and scarcity. It is both a masterpiece of evolutionary design and a prisoner of a vanishing world. But that, for now, is irrelevant.
The bear does not think in futures. It thinks in movement, in scent, in hunger. The day grows dim.
Not darkness exactly, just a lowering of the light into something softer, more silver than white. The Arctic never sleeps fully. In summer, the sun circles the sky endlessly, never dipping below the horizon. In winter, it vanishes entirely, leaving months of darkness. The bear adjusts to both. Right now, it walks forward, still hunting, past a fissure in the ice where open water laps gently at the edge. The seal may be nearby, or it may not. It doesn't matter. The bear lowers its head, sniffs again, and keeps going. Because in the Arctic, the snow never stops, and the hunger never does either. The Arctic Ocean wears a frozen mask, but beneath the stillness, it breathes. Ice plates grind softly in the silence, drifting with the wind and current, their undersides scalloped and grooved from seasons of melting and regrowth. On the surface, it looks almost peaceful, a white desert stretched across an invisible sea. But deep below, where light dims into shifting blue-green twilight, movement stirs with lethal intent. An orca pod emerges from the gloom, their black and white bodies flickering like shadows through layers of salt and silence. They travel in tight formation, 15 strong, a matriarchal clan bound by blood and history. The lead female is enormous, her dorsal fin slicing through the water like a blade. She doesn't just lead with strength, she leads with memory. Orcas are cultural predators. They don't just inherit genes, they inherit hunting techniques passed down through generations like oral traditions of survival. Above them, a lone seal rests on a small ice floe. From its vantage point, the ocean is harmless. The ice is safety, solid ground in a world where land is a rumor. But that illusion of safety is exactly what the orcas have learned to weaponize. They don't need to breach, they don't need to chase. What they do is far more precise. The matriarch slows. The others fan out, silently circling the floe. Then they dive, descending into the cold. What happens next defies expectation. One by one, the orcas return from depth and align beneath the ice sheet, their positions staggered like a coordinated dance. Then, with astonishing force, they surge upward together, a synchronized wave of black muscle and momentum. The water explodes beneath the floe, sending it tilting violently. The seal panics. It scrambles, flippers slipping on the slush as the world beneath it buckles. A second wave of orcas strikes the ice from below. This time, the floe rolls. The seal is thrown into the freezing sea, disoriented and exposed. But the orcas don't attack immediately. They circle, watch. The seal thrashes, tries to clamber back onto the fragment of ice, now too small and unstable to offer refuge. Just as it pulls itself halfway out of the water, the matriarch accelerates. With terrifying speed and control, she bursts from below and slams into the ice chunk with her rostrum, shattering it and flinging the seal skyward. It lands with a splash. A second orca intercepts before it can find direction, grabbing it mid-turn. The hunt is over in seconds. Yet this is not chaos. It is choreography. Arctic orcas have been observed using different techniques than their Antarctic cousins, and even from other Arctic pods depending on region. Some specialize in deep diving to ambush narwhals and belugas. Others, like this pod, focus on ice edge hunts, mastering the art of flipping, smashing, and drowning prey that relies on frozen terrain for shelter. Their sonar, a highly evolved biosonar system, allows them to detect the seal's heartbeat even under the ice. What the eyes can't see, the clicks and echoes can map in extraordinary detail. But not every hunt ends in triumph. The ocean is vast, and seals are nimble. Some floes are too thick to flip. Some seals slip away through cracks before the orcas strike. Others take advantage of the ice's unpredictable movement, drifting into leads or narrow channels where the orcas cannot maneuver. This forces the pod to constantly adapt, repositioning their approach. Sometimes they herd multiple flows together, limiting the seal's escape routes. It's not brute strength that gives them an edge. It's patience, learning, and communication. Communication among orcas is complex, nuanced, and almost unnerving in its precision. They emit a range of whistles, clicks, and pulsed calls, many of which are unique to specific pods or even families. These calls aren't just noise, they're tactical, instructions passed like silent orders in a military unit. During a hunt, vocalizations are often minimized. But the moment prey is secured, the ocean fills with triumphant bursts of sound, celebration perhaps, or signals to regroup. It's this ability to switch between silence and symphony that reveals just how socially intelligent these predators are. Their intelligence extends beyond the hunt. Orcas take turns feeding, prioritizing the matriarch and calves. They even share food, passing chunks of flesh gently to each other. Calves are taught to hunt through imitation, first watching, then mimicking, until they too can flip a flow with precision. There is no randomness to their education. Every action, every movement has purpose, and all of it unfolds beneath the surface, unseen by the ice above. As the pod drifts along the ice edge, they encounter a second target. This time, a small group of harp seals clustered near a pressure ridge. These ridges form where currents and winds press ice sheets together, creating jagged spines of broken slabs. The seals are alert. They hear the distant exhalations of the orcas, faint blasts of air surfacing in rhythm. The adults edge closer to the ridge, prepared to vanish into its cracks. But the calves are slower, less experienced. The orcas split. Half of the pod breaks off, circling wide and releasing a scatter of clicks, not random noise but a deliberate sound net. The seal group begins to react, shuffling nervously. Then from beneath the ridge, the matriarch approaches again, this time alone. Her fin brushes the ice. The seals freeze, sensing something but unable to see it clearly. In a sudden burst of motion, she breaches the edge, mouth open not to strike but to spook. The seals scatter. One calf panics and dives the wrong direction, straight into open water. Two orcas intercept. It's over before it understands the mistake. This isn't just feeding, it's pressure. The pod manipulates fear, disorientation, and terrain like chess pieces. And it works because the orcas understand their environment as intimately as any land predator. They know the thickness of ice from the sound of it cracking, the direction of currents from subtle shifts in temperature, the pathways of prey from past migrations passed down through generations. They are not visitors in this frozen world, they are apex strategists of it. By late evening, the light shifts. In Arctic summer, night doesn't fall in the traditional sense. The sun merely circles lower on the horizon, casting long shadows across the ice. The orcas move slower now, energy conserved after several successful hunts. Calves swim close to mothers, mimicking dives and surface rolls. A few bulls linger near the edge of a deeper lead, scanning for larger prey, perhaps a beluga straying from its pod. But not tonight. Tonight, the ice is silent again. On the surface, nothing remains but a smear of blood on a broken floe, already fading into the snow. The seal is gone. The ice will mend. And the orcas, black fins fading into blue, vanish once more into the depths, leaving no trace but a story carved in water. A story few ever witness, but all who do never forget. The wind sweeps low across the tundra, carrying a fine powder of snow that dances along the surface like smoke. In the vast, open expanse of the high Arctic, there is nowhere to hide, no trees to shelter behind, no rock formations to break the line of sight. Just an unbroken sheet of white and wind, where movement is betrayed by shadow and contrast. Yet here, among the monochrome silence, something moves. Not one thing, but many. They appear not as a pack, but as a pattern. A formation stretched thin across the horizon, low and fluid.
Arctic wolves, Canis lupus arctos, materialize like a living mirage, silent and spread out, each one moving in tandem with the next, as if connected by instinct rather than sight. This is not coincidence, it is calculation. The Arctic wolf is a subspecies built for extremes. Shorter ears to reduce heat loss, thicker white coats to blend with the landscape, and massive paws that function like snowshoes. But it is their ability to operate as a cohesive unit that elevates them to the top of the tundra's hierarchy. In a world where most apex predators hunt alone or in pairs, these wolves function like a tactical team, coordinating silently to bring down prey many times their size. Today, they found one. A herd of musk oxen grazes on frozen lichen, their heads buried in the snow, powerful hooves churning the crust to reach the dry vegetation below. Each one is a fortress, weighing up to 400 kilograms, protected by a shaggy coat, a thick skull, and curved horns capable of smashing a wolf's ribs in a single charge. They are not easy prey, but for a wolf pack, difficulty is opportunity. The lead wolf halts, its head lowers, tail drops. The signal is not obvious to human eyes, but it ripples across the others instantly. The approach begins. What follows is not a sprint, it is a methodical tightening of the noose. The wolves split into an arc, some fanning wide to flank, others pushing straight toward the herd. Their goal is not to trigger panic, not yet. Panic comes later, once separation begins. Right now, they're scanning, reading the herd like a predator flipping through a playbook. They search for signs, a limp, a swollen joint, a calf lagging behind, an elder slowed by age. The musk oxen sense the pressure. Heads rise. A few grunt and shift position, instinctively bunching together in a defensive wall, horns outward. Calves push to the center. The wolves test the edge. One dashes in, feints left, draws a charge. Another slides behind to sniff the rear flank. It's not an attack, it's reconnaissance. They're learning the herd's speed, reaction time, and the roles of its defenders. Then they find what they're looking for. A cow with a stiff rear leg, limping slightly as it turns. The wolves don't hesitate. The shift is immediate. The formation changes. Now they drive. Two wolves rush from opposite sides, harassing the flank, pushing her out from the group. The rest of the herd tries to close ranks, but the wolves insert themselves between them, snapping and barking, disrupting the cohesion. The cow breaks, galloping awkwardly across the snow, and the chase begins in earnest. This is where wolf endurance becomes its greatest weapon. Arctic wolves are built not for explosive power, but for persistence. They run low, heads forward, conserving energy, each stride measured to match the terrain. Their prey may outmatch them in size, but never in stamina. The wounded muskox runs, slows, stumbles, runs again. The wolves fall back when she turns, then surge forward when she falters. Each time she swings her horns, they withdraw just far enough. Each time she slows, they press closer. Eventually, exhaustion overtakes strength. The cow makes a final stand, planting her feet, swinging her horns in wild arcs. But now the wolves know her rhythm. One charges from the front, drawing her attention. Another darts in from behind, sinking its teeth into a rear tendon. She lurches forward, kicks, but another wolf is already at her throat. The pack converges, quick, efficient, relentless. Within seconds, the muskox collapses in a heap of heaving breath and steam. The kill is clean. The moment of death comes not with a roar, but a collective exhale as the pack surrounds her. Feeding begins in order. The dominant pair eats first, not as a show of dominance, but to ensure the strongest providers stay strongest. The pups and subordinates wait their turn, circling, whining softly. There is structure here, rules encoded through years of life in a world where even one misstep could mean death. The meat is warm. The snow turns pink around the kill. Every bite restores what the wolves burned in the chase. Every organ consumed is vital. Heart, liver, kidneys. The hide, the bones, even the marrow will be used. Waste is not an option in the Arctic, but hunting muskoxen is not their only strategy. In summer months, when snow recedes and tundra blooms with brief life, the wolves shift tactics. Caribou become a primary target. More agile, less armored, but faster and unpredictable. These hunts often stretch across kilometers, with wolves herding, pressuring, and ambushing in ways more akin to wild dogs on savannas than Arctic predators. Pups born in spring will learn by watching, first playing with scraps, then mimicking ambush drills.
They chase ptarmigan and Arctic hares for practice, strengthening the skills they'll need by their first winter. Occasionally, a pack will encounter a weakened bear, most often a young or elderly individual, struggling through the snow or guarding a carcass the wolves covet. Confrontations are rare and dangerous. A swipe from a polar bear can break a wolf's spine, but hunger makes risk unavoidable. The wolves encircle, harass, nip at the legs, test the bear's resolve. Sometimes they succeed in driving it away. Sometimes they leave with wounds and nothing more. Communication is constant, though rarely loud. A flick of a tail, a tilt of the head, a low whine or soft growl. These are the codes by which Arctic wolves operate. Their language is understated but effective. Unlike some wolf populations further south, Arctic wolves rarely see humans. They have little fear of them, but even less interest. Their range is remote, their world dictated by ice, not intrusion. They do not howl for theatrics. They howl for cohesion, long, low tones that echo across the tundra to signal location, direction, and unity. As the kill winds down and the last scraps are pulled from bone, the wolves begin to move again. Rest is brief. The Arctic offers no abundance, only temporary relief. Another storm brews on the horizon. A curtain of white that will erase tracks and silence everything again. The pack reforms, spreading into motion with the same fluid geometry it used before. They vanish over the ridge, not as individuals, but as a single, moving organism. White on white, hunger on patrol, ghosts in perfect synchronization. The Arctic sun does not set. It drifts. It circles the sky in slow, looping arcs, casting long shadows across the tundra even at midnight. There is no dusk, no reprieve. Only endless light diffused through pale clouds and floating ice crystals. This strange perpetual day is both a blessing and a challenge. It exposes everything. Movement has nowhere to hide. And for one particular hunter, this is not a problem. It is an opportunity. From a mound of frost-hardened earth, a white shape surveys the stillness. Its plumage is so well matched to its environment that it appears sculpted from the land itself.
But then its head swivels, sharply, smoothly, nearly 270 degrees, scanning with precision.
Two yellow eyes glint like cold fire. The snowy owl is awake, alert and hungry. Unlike many birds of prey, snowy owls are diurnal, active both day and night. In the Arctic summer, they have no choice. Here, darkness is a seasonal event, not a daily rhythm. The owl has adapted to this with a hunter's pragmatism. Perched low, it watches for the slightest twitch. The ripple of grass disturbed, a flicker of movement in the lichen. Beneath the surface, burrows twist and breathe with life. Lemmings, voles, small mammals that carry the weight of entire food chains on their fragile backs. The owl takes flight. There is no sound, not the whisper of feathers, not the hiss of wind. Its wings are broad, its strokes slow and deliberate. Specialized edges along its flight feathers disrupt turbulence, rendering it almost perfectly silent. Even the air doesn't hear its arrival. It glides low, adjusting height with subtle shifts of its shoulders, following the contours of the land like a sheet of white silk drawn by invisible hands. Then it stalls, hovers, and plunges. Talons strike with sudden, brutal force. The snow scatters. A vole squeals once, then goes still. The owl rights itself, stands over the kill, then bites down, swallowing it whole in a few quick jerks. This is not an act of malice, but necessity. In a good year, a single snowy owl pair may kill thousands of lemmings to feed themselves and their chicks. In a bad year, the lemmings disappear, and everything begins to unravel. Snowy owls are eruptive breeders. Their numbers rise and fall dramatically based on prey availability. When lemming populations crash, as they often do in cyclic multi-year waves, the owls are forced into desperate adaptation. Some migrate far beyond their normal range, appearing as far south as the northeastern United States. Others stay, becoming territorial, aggressive, and opportunistic. On the tundra, this shift is immediate and visible. Once passive birds become combative, they drive off intruders with loud calls and bluff charges. Other raptors, jaegers, rough-legged hawks, even other owls, become rivals rather than neighbors. Fights erupt mid-air, twisting duels of talons and beaks, white feathers scattering like snowflakes in battle. These are not displays. They are real contests with consequences. Territory means prey, and prey means survival. Back at the nest site, a shallow scrape in the ground, unprotected but chosen for visibility, a female owl guards her chicks. The male does most of the hunting, bringing food in long flights from distant hunting grounds. When he returns, the exchange is swift. He lands silently, drops the prey, and departs again, wasting no time. She tears the kill into manageable pieces, feeding the chicks in turn. Their survival depends on a rhythm uninterrupted by scarcity. Predation does not go one way. Arctic foxes, skuas, and even gulls pose threats to chicks and eggs. The female stands guard with vigilance, puffing herself to twice her size, flaring wings, hissing, lunging. She will not retreat. Snowy owls are unusually bold for birds their size, a trait born from necessity in an environment where hesitation can be fatal. They've even been documented attacking caribou that wander too close to their nest, harrying the massive herbivores until they back away. During lean times, the owls hunt what they can. Voles and lemmings are preferred, but small birds, insects, and fish scraps become viable substitutes. Some snowy owls are seen scavenging on seal remains left by foxes or polar bears. They are not above stealing kills from other predators, using speed and aggression to push smaller birds away from their hard-won meals. Opportunism becomes strategy. Unlike owls in forested regions, snowy owls do not rely on concealment. Their camouflage works best in motionless stillness, but in flight, they are unmistakable. White wings flashing against the pale sky, soaring over miles of tundra in slow patrols. They have excellent vision and can spot a moving vole from over 200 meters away. Their hearing, though not as finely tuned as the barn owls, is still acute enough to detect underground rustlings beneath the snowpack. When prey is abundant and breeding successful, the tundra echoes with the presence of snowy owls. Pairs nest across wide territories, each defending a radius that expands or contracts depending on food availability. But when the lemming boom ends, as it always does, many owls vanish. They drift south, scattering like seeds in the wind, showing up in unfamiliar places, confusing birders and scientists alike with their sudden appearances. Some won't return. Others will, following the rhythms of an ecosystem that oscillates between feast and famine. As the season shifts again and the light begins its slow fade toward autumn, the chicks near fledging age. Their downy coats give way to juvenile plumage, mottled and grey. They practice by hopping and flapping along ridges, their landings clumsy but improving. Soon they will take to the air, not in play but in pursuit. Their lessons begin not in lecture but in observation. They watch the adults hunt, mimic the hover, the dive, the stoop. Success comes slowly, and many do not make it to winter. But those that do will inherit a territory, a pattern, a method that has endured for millennia. The adult male circles once more over the tundra, wings held high, scanning the ground below. He has flown for hours, covering kilometers in search of a single mouse-sized target. The wind shifts, lifting a faint scent of fur. He adjusts course. Below something moves, too small for the human eye to notice, but enough for his. He stalls, drops, disappears behind a rise. For a moment the tundra is silent again, a vast indifferent canvas of snow and stone. But then a shadow glides low across the ground, circling back toward the nest. The hunter returns. The chicks stir, the female rises, and life on the tundra ticks forward one more beat. Here in the land of light without sleep, the snowy owl reigns, not with fury or force, but with silence, precision, and the patience of a creature that has learned how to endure what most cannot. Beneath the Arctic's blinding white surface lies a different world, one few ever see and fewer survive. It is a world defined not by vision, but by sound. Here, under a lid of ice that stretches for miles, there is no sun, no horizon, only the greenish-blue haze of refracted light, filtering weakly through several feet of compressed snow and frozen seawater. The silence is thick but deceptive. Below, movement never stops. The ocean does not sleep, even when buried under a continent of ice. The temperature hovers just below freezing. The water, paradoxically fluid, exists in this fragile equilibrium due to its salinity, flowing silently through mazes of submerged ice ridges and shifting caverns. In this stillness, Arctic cod hover in tightly packed schools. Small, silvery and efficient, they move as one, each individual body reacting in perfect synchronicity with the next. These fish are the fuel of the Arctic food web, carrying more weight than their size suggests. To predators, they are not just prey. They are currency, survival, and sustenance bundled in nervous, shimmering clouds. But they are not alone in the cold. From deeper water, a dark shape rises, slow, deliberate, silent. A beluga whale, compact and smooth, ascends through a narrow channel toward the cod. Its pale skin makes it ghost-like in this underwater gloom, barely distinguishable from the swirling light above. As it nears the school, it emits a train of echolocation clicks, high-frequency bursts that fan out in a cone of perception. The echoes return in milliseconds, painting an invisible picture of the cod's position and density. There is no chase, no sudden lunge. Instead, the beluga angles its head, opens its mouth and inhales. Water rushes in, and with it dozens of cod vanish. The whale turns, swallows, and scans again. Elsewhere, a second predator patrols the labyrinth, more elusive, more specialized. The narwhal, a creature so strange it seems born of myth, slips through a fissure in the ice like a blade through cloth. Its long tusk, a twisted ivory spear up to 3 meters in length, extends ahead like a sensor, not a weapon. The narwhal's sonar is refined, and scientists believe the tusk itself might play a role in sensing subtle changes in pressure or salinity. What is certain is its ability to maneuver with agility, scanning for cod while weaving through narrow corridors, some no wider than its own body. Unlike the beluga, the narwhal prefers deeper dives, often plunging to depths of 1,500 meters in search of denser, colder concentrations of prey. But here in the upper layers, the cod offer an easier bounty. With a quick acceleration, the narwhal glides into a cluster and strikes, not with the tusk, but with suction, opening its mouth and drawing prey in with sudden force. A few flick away, lucky or fast. Most are gone before they understand what approached them. While belugas and narwhals hunt with sonar and subtlety, another predator plays a slower, stealthier game. From a hollow pocket beneath the ice, a ringed seal waits, motionless. It has been there for hours, conserving heat, barely breathing. Its whiskers twitch, catching currents and vibrations. The cod are near. It slips from the pocket into the open water like liquid mercury, turning its body in tight loops as it navigates the columns of ice that hang like stalactites from the surface. The seal's large eyes, adapted for low light, catch flashes of silver ahead. With sudden propulsion from its hind flippers, it darts forward. Ringed seals are nimble, capable of sharp turns and lightning-quick bursts of speed. Cod scatter as the seal barrels into the school, snapping sideways and grabbing fish in mid-turn. It bites, swallows and whips around again, taking advantage of the confusion. But the cod regroup quickly, curling into a tight ball and spiraling upward toward a channel of safety. The seal doesn't follow them to the surface. It knows the channels are thinner there, easier to trap prey but also easier to be trapped itself. It circles once more and vanishes into the gloom. Predators aren't the only challenge cod face beneath the ice. The environment itself is a labyrinth in motion. Ice expands and contracts with tides and pressure, grinding loudly at times, shifting walls of frozen water with explosive force. An open channel today may be sealed tomorrow. A breathing hole may vanish under a fresh snowfall or collapse beneath the weight of shifting slabs. Cod must remain constantly aware, using their lateral line systems to detect vibration, their tight schools functioning as a collective early warning system. The ones that stray from the group often do not return. Sometimes the hunters become the hunted. A ringed seal, fat from a successful dive, surfaces to breathe, only to find the lead covered in fresh ice. It claws frantically at the ceiling, searching for the air pocket it mapped earlier. Its panic sends vibrations rippling in every direction. Far below, the signal is intercepted. A shadow rises through the maze. The polar bear is not a frequent swimmer in these depths, but it is a skilled opportunist. It patrols the leads, scanning from above for breathing seals or disturbances in the ice. From time to time, a seal surfaces too slowly or underestimates the bear's position. A powerful paw crashes through a fragile sheet, grabbing what it can. Sometimes it succeeds. More often, the seal escapes, barely. These interactions are short and violent, the rare moment when predator and prey meet in the vertical dimension of the Arctic. One from below, one from above. Back in the depths, the cycle continues. Belugas regroup and travel in pods, exchanging clicks and buzzes that map the ice overhead in communal choruses. Narwhals split into smaller hunting parties, each member carving its own path through the under-ice terrain. Seals return to hidden chambers to digest and rest. And the cod, Those vital, flickering pulses of protein remain on the move, wary, reactive, and essential. They are not impressive in size. They do not dazzle with color or cunning, but they are the heartbeat of this frozen ecosystem. Everything beneath the ice either hunts them, competes with them, or depends on them indirectly. Without the cod, the labyrinth falls silent. As the light above shifts with the turning of seasons, the under-ice world too begins to change. The channels widen, the breathing holes grow, the ice thins, the hunters adjust. Some will migrate to open seas. Others will remain in the maze, navigating by echo, guided by instinct and memory through tunnels that will soon collapse. For now, they continue. In the shadow world below the snow, where no foot ever falls and no eye ever sees, life thrums forward with quiet violence. Every echo is a message, every silence a sign. Every flick of a tail could mean escape or death. High above the Arctic tundra, where the wind whistles across open stretches of gravel and moss, the airspace is under constant surveillance. There are no trees to obscure the sky, no cliffs to shield nests. Every feathered resident of this windswept realm is exposed, visible against a canvas of pale blue and scattered clouds. In this stark emptiness, the most violent battles are not fought on the ground or beneath the ice, but in the air. At first glance, the tundra's summer bird colonies seem like a celebration of life. Thousands of Arctic terns wheel and dive in clouds of white and grey, their high-pitched cries weaving into a chaotic chorus that stretches for miles along the coastlines. They nest in dense clusters, each pair fiercely defending a patch of gravel no bigger than a dinner plate. Among them are eggs, camouflaged in speckled brown, and chicks, fluffy and vulnerable. It looks peaceful from afar, but peace here is maintained by vigilance, not trust. Because circling just beyond the perimeter, waiting for an opening, is a very different kind of bird. The skua. Broad-winged, muscular, and mottled in dirty browns and blacks, the skua does not sneak. It doesn't need to. Its strategy is blunt force intimidation. It cruises low over the colonies, wings rigid and eyes locked forward, broadcasting its intent with every beat. The terns rise in a cloud to intercept it, screeching, diving, clawing at the air in an attempt to drive it back. But the skua doesn't flinch. It tilts, wheels, then darts straight into the confusion, heading for a nest. This is not a hunt in the traditional sense. It is theft, and the skua is a specialist. In the seconds it takes for the terns to rally, it has already snatched a chick or an egg and is veering away with a prize clamped in its hooked beak. The chase begins. Terns dive at its back, striking with beaks and feet, but the skua banks hard, climbing higher with every flap, outpacing its pursuers. Once it reaches safe distance, it lands and swallows the prize whole. The Arctic tern is not defenseless, far from it. For its size and weight, it is among the most aggressive birds on Earth. Despite being nearly half the size of a skua, the tern will harass and attack predators many times its size, including humans, foxes, and other birds of prey. Their precision is remarkable. Terns strike the tops of heads and wings with the accuracy of dive bombers, sometimes drawing blood and rarely breaking formation. But their defense is reactive. They protect rather than pursue, and the skua knows this well. What unfolds across the tundra during nesting season is a ceaseless guerrilla war. Skuas patrol the edges, watching for openings. Terns mob intruders, scream warnings, and launch aerial assaults. The air becomes a battlefield, littered with feathers and echoing with shrieks. There is no rest. Some nests are abandoned after repeated raids. Others survive only because the parents never stop fighting. The skua's methods vary. Sometimes it flies alone, targeting isolated nests with surgical focus. Other times it works in pairs, one bird drawing the defenders away in a fake dive, the other swooping in behind to seize the real target. These aren't instincts born of randomness, they are strategies honed by necessity. In the Arctic, each calorie matters. Success isn't just about strength, it's about efficiency. The skua doesn't waste time with full-grown prey when an egg offers the same energy with none of the risk. But the skua is not just a thief. When opportunity allows, it will kill. Small chicks left unattended for even a minute may vanish without a trace. Weak or injured terns are fair game. On rare occasions, the skua will even take on larger birds, chasing them down with relentless tenacity until exhaustion tips the balance. Its strength is not in its beak or talons, but in its endurance and audacity. The Arctic tern, meanwhile, fights a war on multiple fronts. In addition to skuas, they must fend off jaegers, gulls, and ground-based predators like foxes. Their nesting strategy is numbers-based. Safety comes not from solitude, but from overwhelming response. When hundreds of terns lift off together to defend the colony, even the boldest skua must retreat. But outside the colony perimeter, things change. A lone tern, separated from its neighbors, is suddenly vulnerable, and the skua is always watching. There's irony in the contrast between the two birds. The Arctic tern is a marvel of endurance, famous for completing the longest known migration in the animal kingdom, flying from the Arctic to the Antarctic and back each year. It travels over 40,000 kilometers annually, experiencing 2 summers and more daylight than any other species on Earth. It weighs barely 100 grams. Its bones are delicate, yet in defense of its nest it becomes fearless, launching itself at predators in acts of pure desperation and drive. The skua, on the other hand, is robust, grounded, and relatively local. It nests in sparse territories, often on higher ground overlooking tern colonies, where it has a strategic vantage point. Its flight is powerful but not graceful. Its body is built not for elegance but for survival. It doesn't migrate across hemispheres. It stays, waits, and takes what it needs. These traits shape not only their behaviors but their personalities. The tern is reactive, high-strung, and communal. The skua is calculating, aggressive, and solitary. Their encounters are not isolated. They are part of a dynamic tension. 2 species locked in an ancient, asymmetric rivalry that plays out across the Arctic summer skies every single year. As the breeding season progresses, the stakes increase. Tern chicks hatch, grow, and begin to wander from the nest. Their defenses weaken the farther they stray. Parents divide their attention, and the skua adapts its strategy. It no longer needs to breach the core colony. It patrols the outskirts, waiting for the moment a chick makes its first unsteady run. Then, with terrifying speed, it descends, wings tucked, legs extended, a silent shape falling from the sky like a stone with intent. Sometimes the chick escapes, darting under vegetation, stumbling to safety. Other times it does not, and the cycle continues. By late summer, as the light begins to dip lower in the sky and the colonies prepare for departure, the battlefield empties. The terns gather in vast flocks and begin their southbound journey, chasing daylight into the far reaches of the Southern Ocean. The skuas linger, feeding on the remains of the season, carcasses, scraps, unhatched eggs. The air quiets. The chaos fades. But next year, they will all return. The Arctic will thaw again, and the gull wars will resume, high above the gravel flats and shallow coasts, where every egg is a gamble, every shadow is a threat, and the sky itself becomes a war zone. The Arctic doesn't forgive hesitation. Its waters are as ruthless as they are beautiful, still on the surface, yet alive with hidden movement. Beneath slabs of sea ice that stretch for hundreds of kilometers, the world is a cryptic labyrinth of blue silence, pressure ridges, and shifting tunnels. It's a place where predators stalk from above and below, and prey must think not just with speed, but with strategy. In this unforgiving maze, seals, particularly the ringed and bearded varieties, have survived not by being the strongest, but by mastering the art of vanishing. It begins in winter, when the ice is thickest and light is weakest. To many, this frozen season marks hardship, but to the ringed seal, it is construction season. With paws designed not just for swimming but for carving, the seal begins to dig, clearing chambers beneath wind-packed snow that piles atop the ice. These dens are carved blind, insulated by overlying snowdrifts, and connected to water through narrow breathing holes maintained day and night. Inside, temperatures stay just warm enough to avoid freezing. A perfect place to rest, raise pups, and vanish from sight. The engineering is precise. Each breathing hole is kept open with the seal's claws, which rake the ice constantly, preventing it from sealing shut. One blocked hole could mean death. The Arctic doesn't grant second chances. Some seals maintain multiple holes at once, rotating between them to stay unpredictable. These tiny portals to the surface are nearly invisible to the untrained eye, but not to the nose of a polar bear. From above, the ice is a flat white void, but to the bear it smells of breath, of warmth, of opportunity. And the seal knows this, which is why it rarely surfaces for long. A quick exhale, a gulp of air, and it's gone again, diving silently into the maze below.
For the ringed seal, the trick is to be everywhere and nowhere.
Movement is conservative, pulses are low, and every decision is calculated. It navigates by memory, retracing paths between breathing holes and food sources in the inky depths beneath the ice. And when it senses vibrations from above, footfalls or shifts in snow, it stays still, heart slowing to conserve oxygen and avoid detection. A seal can hold its breath for over 30 minutes if it must. Unlike the smaller solitary ringed seals, the larger and shaggier bearded seals use a different strategy. They don't rely on snow dens or deep stealth. Instead, they sing. Floating near their breathing holes or resting at the seafloor, bearded seals produce long, eerie trills and sweeping vocalizations that echo like whale song through the ice. These haunting calls serve multiple purposes: to stake out territory, to attract mates, and perhaps counterintuitively, to warn others. Each male's song is unique, repeated for hours at a time, and can be heard for kilometers. It's not just a mating ritual. It's an audio map of who's where and what belongs to whom in an otherwise invisible landscape. These seals feed mostly on benthic organisms, clams, shrimp, bottom-dwelling fish, which they vacuum from the seafloor with their sensitive, whiskered snouts. Those whiskers, thick and mobile, are among the most sensitive in the animal kingdom, capable of detecting the faintest ripple in the mud. While ringed seals chase small fish like Arctic cod, the bearded seal digs, rooting through sediment for buried treasures. Each species has carved out a niche, minimizing competition, maximizing survival, yet both are on the menu for Arctic predators. Above the ice, the polar bear waits, patient and silent beside a breathing hole, motionless for hours. Below, the seal drifts upward. It's not recklessness that brings it back to the surface, it's biology. Oxygen must be replenished, but the seal has learned. It approaches slowly, listening. If it hears scraping or senses an unfamiliar vibration, it retreats immediately. If all seems quiet, it rises, nose first, ready to pull back at the first sign of shadow. Sometimes the bear strikes too soon, missing by inches. Other times it waits until the last possible second, driving a paw through the surface with enough force to crush a seal's skull. Success for the predator depends entirely on anticipation. Success for the seal depends entirely on doubt. But predators don't just come from above. In the water, stealthier killers roam. Orcas, capable of navigating under the ice with uncanny precision, sometimes target seals resting on isolated floes. In rare events, they even coordinate to tip entire platforms of ice, dumping seals into the water where they're more vulnerable. And when narwhals or walrus calves surface to breathe near seal territories, competition or confrontation can occur. The sea may look vast, but the safe breathing holes are few and fiercely contested. Seals are not simply hunted, they're tested. Every moment is a gamble. A surface dive might yield fresh air or sudden death. A return to a favorite chamber might offer rest or reveal a collapsed roof. Spring thaws bring more light but also more exposure. Melting snow reveals the dens, making them easy targets. Polar bears step harder now, cracking through ceilings. Arctic foxes, smaller but persistent, dart into exposed tunnels, snatching pups. Ravens, sharp-eyed opportunists, swoop down to steal unguarded remains. No predator is too big or too small to pose a threat. And still, the seals endure. They adapt. In seasons with low snow cover, they dig deeper. In high predation years, they birth fewer pups, less reward but higher investment. They map the ice from below, remember safe paths, and avoid sites of previous danger. Scientists have observed individual seals showing complex decision-making, abandoning entire territories if they become too risky, relocating to new, unclaimed zones despite the effort it takes. For all their intelligence, though, survival ultimately remains a matter of odds. One slip, one misread vibration, and a seal becomes a statistic in the Arctic's endless cycle. Yet their presence here, abundant, elusive, essential, fuels everything above and below. They feed the bears, challenge the orcas, sustain the foxes, and shape the movement of predators from one flow to the next. Without the seals, the Arctic collapses. Now, as the long light of summer returns and the ice begins its slow melt, the seals prepare to leave the confines of their winter dens. The pups, new to the world, soft and round, venture cautiously toward the edge of the water. Their first dive is hesitant. They sniff, slip, panic, and return, But soon, instinct takes over. They swim, they dive. They begin the silent training of navigating a world where the sky is frozen, and safety lies not in flight, but in understanding the rules of a world that punishes hesitation and rewards invisibility. Here, under the ice and snow, the seal survives not by outrunning its enemies, but by outsmarting them, by engineering a life between danger and necessity. A creature without claws, without armor, without speed, but still somehow always one breath ahead. The Arctic tundra sprawls in every direction, a vast open arena stripped of trees and softened only by rolling hills, scattered rocks, and low-lying vegetation buried beneath the weight of snow. The light is flat and uniform, reflecting off the landscape in every direction, until depth itself seems to disappear. In this bleached world, stillness is rarely what it seems. Sometimes it hides a hunter, sometimes it hides a heartbeat. Among the wind-carved ridges of snow, a clump of white feathers huddles motionless. It appears lifeless, indistinguishable from the drifts beside it. Then, with a soft rustle, it blinks. The willow ptarmigan has survived another day. Covered in a thick layer of white plumage that matches the tundra to perfection, it crouches low to conserve heat and avoid detection. Its feathers run down to its toes like winter boots, muffling its footsteps and adding insulation. It is not a powerful flyer. It is not particularly fast. But it has two weapons, camouflage and unpredictability. From far above, riding the updrafts of a distant ridge, a shape surveys the tundra with intense focus. Larger than a peregrine falcon, with powerful wings and a wide chest, the gerfalcon glides in slow, deliberate arcs. To the untrained eye, it might resemble a gull, but its flight betrays its purpose. Each banking turn methodical, each rise and fall tuned to conserve altitude and watch the terrain below for any movement, any shift in the pattern that breaks the illusion of stillness. The gerfalcon is the Arctic's top avian predator, and unlike migratory raptors, it endures the brutal cold year-round. Some are pale grey, some almost white, others darker and mottled, blending into the rocky outcrops where they roost. But when hunting over snow, the lightest morphs become near invisible, a flash of snow in motion. Its eyes, sharp enough to spot a rabbit from 2 kilometers away, scan the crusted valleys for the faintest stir. The ptarmigan shifts slightly, revealing a soft indentation where its body has melted the snow beneath it. Its instincts are ancient, refined by generations of survival under threat. It stays frozen, trusting in the illusion of invisibility. But for the gerfalcon, a twitch is enough. The falcon doesn't dive immediately. It circles once more, silent. The ptarmigan hears nothing. The wind masks the sound of feathers, then impact. From hundreds of feet above, the gerfalcon folds its wings and falls. It doesn't soar or drift. It commits. Its descent is ballistic, precise, locked onto the exact location of the prey. Within seconds, the blur crosses the final gap, spreading its wings to break just before striking. Talons forward, body low. The ptarmigan bolts. White explodes against white. The ptarmigan erupts from the snow in a frantic burst, wings flapping in wild, erratic pulses. It doesn't aim for speed, it aims for confusion. Ptarmigans are masters of the last-second swerve. Their wings whir, kicking up a flurry of snow that blinds the falcon for a critical moment. The falcon adjusts in midair, turns, and accelerates again. But the ptarmigan is not fleeing in a straight line. It zigzags through a low gully, skimming just above the snow, banking sharply to avoid the falcon's path. The gerfalcon cuts the arc tighter, matching it turn for turn, closing the distance. At these speeds, the difference between escape and death is measured in inches. Then, a sharp turn from the ptarmigan, right into a narrow snow channel between rocks. The gerfalcon has to pull up. It cannot follow. The ptarmigan crashes into the snow beyond and disappears. There's no sound but the wind again. The falcon circles twice more, scanning, then lands on a nearby rise, frustrated but patient. This is not a failure, it's part of the hunt. Gerfalcons are sprinters, not marathoners. Their success relies on the element of surprise and overwhelming acceleration. They often fail. But when they succeed, the kill is swift and clean. The talons strike with immense force, puncturing through feathers and flesh to immobilize prey in seconds. The falcon then begins to pluck, tearing the down away to expose meat. In the Arctic, every bite counts. But ptarmigans do not just rely on luck and reflex. Their entire physiology is adapted for evasion. In winter, they change completely, growing an entirely new set of white feathers that insulate and camouflage. Their feet become feathered snowshoes. Even their digestive systems adapt, breaking down coarse winter forage like twigs and buds with increased efficiency. They survive on almost nothing, sheltering in snow burrows at night, emerging only to forage in short bursts. During these moments of vulnerability, they are hunted not only by gerfalcons, but by Arctic foxes, stoats, and snowy owls. But the gerfalcon is their most precise threat, the only predator capable of matching them in mid-air. This has forced ptarmigans into a perpetual state of edge living, flying low, landing often, and never assuming safety lasts more than a few seconds. Back on the ridge, the gerfalcon rests. It ruffles its feathers, adjusts its talons on the perch, and waits. It has time. The Arctic rewards those who conserve energy and strike only when the odds are favorable. From this vantage point, the falcon can survey kilometers of land. It doesn't waste movement. It memorizes terrain, tracks wind, and notes patterns of prey. Every valley, every drift, every shadowed rock becomes part of its mental map. Not all hunts are solitary. During breeding season, gerfalcons often hunt as pairs, one flushing prey while the other intercepts. They raise their young on cliff ledges, out of reach of ground predators, feeding them with a steady supply of ptarmigans, hares, and even ducks. The chicks grow fast in the endless summer light, driven by hunger and the relentless urgency of short Arctic seasons. By late summer, the ptarmigans shed their white feathers for mottled browns, blending into thawing tundra. The snow melts, the wind softens, and the hunting game shifts. But for a few months of the year, the white-on-white war reaches its peak, where every wing beat matters and survival depends on timing, agility, and the ability to disappear at the exact right moment. In this landscape of ice and silence, where shadows vanish in snow and death falls from the sky without warning, both predator and prey have shaped each other into masters of their domain. The gerfalcon sharpens its flight on the escape patterns of the ptarmigan. The ptarmigan hones its evasion against the falcon's speed. It is a deadly ballet danced in blizzards and silence, repeated over generations, invisible to all but the few who know where to look. This is not a chase, it is a contest, of reflex, of adaptation, of snowstorms made of feathers. Sink below the surface of the Arctic Ocean, past the fractured ceiling of sea ice and the darting trails of cod and seals, and the light begins to fade. The blue haze dulls to green, then to grey, then to nothing. Sound is swallowed by pressure. Temperature plummets to just above freezing. At these depths, often hundreds, sometimes thousands of meters beneath the waves, life unfolds in a timescale almost alien. It doesn't rush, it drifts, it waits. From this silence emerges a shape that doesn't move so much as appear. A Greenland shark, Somniosus microcephalus, glides slowly through the abyss, its bulky, torpedo-shaped body covered in scars and parasitic hitchhikers. Its skin is slate grey, rough like ancient leather, and its eyes are pale and cloudy. Most individuals are partially blind, their corneas often infested with parasitic copepods that dangle like threads. But the shark doesn't need to see. Down here, sight is almost useless. This predator hunts by smell, vibration, and memory. Greenland sharks are among the most mysterious and ancient vertebrates on the planet. Radiocarbon dating of their eye lenses suggests some individuals may live over 400 years, longer than any known mammal or fish. They grow slowly, at a rate of less than a centimeter per year, and don't reach maturity until they're over a century old. Their metabolism crawls, matching the icy stillness of their environment. But what they lack in speed, they make up for in patience. They cruise the sea floor with deceptive quiet, drawn to scents that may have drifted for kilometers. Dead fish, rotting seals, even sunken whales, they eat what they find, but they also hunt. And this is where the story unfolds. Because not all prey lies still. In the same dark corridors where the shark drifts, another creature thrives in flashes and pulses, one that doesn't wait for death, but disappears into it. The Arctic squid is no fixed species. There are several, including Gonatus fabricii, a common deep-sea hunter that resembles a torpedo with arms. Sleek, fast, and nervous, these squid are built for ambush and escape. Their bodies are soft and pliable, with large eyes adapted for low light and tentacles lined with suckers and hooks. Unlike the shark, which rarely exceeds a couple of kilometers per hour, The squid can burst forward in jet propulsion, accelerating with a squeeze of its mantle and a violent push of water. But bursts only last seconds. Down here, the real game is one of proximity and surprise. The shark detects something, a flicker in the dark, perhaps a faint pulse of ammonia or a signature swirl of displacement in the water. It turns slowly, almost lazily, banking toward the signal. Its mouth opens slightly, a vacuum in waiting. The squid feels it, not directly, but as a ripple of tension in the water, a vibration traveling across its sensitive lateral line. It swivels, orients its arms, and waits to confirm. Then, in a flash of recognition, it acts. A burst of light, bioluminescent ink, flares for less than a second. Not black ink, like its shallow water cousins, but a chemical signal mixed with faint blue-green glow, enough to startle and disorient. The squid jets backward in a corkscrew motion, zigzagging through the water as it vanishes into darkness. The Greenland shark doesn't chase, it can't. It lurches forward slightly, sensing the ink cloud, but the prey is already gone. It resumes its drift. This is the duel, not one of speed or violence, but of presence and absence. The shark approaches. The squid evades. Sometimes the dance repeats several times before one makes a mistake. A squid might hesitate a fraction too long. The shark might drift directly into a feeding cluster, and when it does strike, it does so without warning.
A lunge, a snap, a slow grind of teeth, and the ink fades into silence.
The Greenland shark's teeth are curved and arranged asymmetrically, designed not to shear but to grip and twist. Its upper teeth hold, its lower teeth saw. In a successful attack, the shark might spin its body slowly, carving a circular plug from its prey like a mechanical drill. Wounds from these bites are distinct, and some Arctic animals, including seals and even other sharks, bear these crescent scars for life. But this success rate is low. Most squid slip away. For every meal caught, many are missed. And in this icy wilderness, even giants must accept hunger. Not all encounters are predatory. Sometimes, the two species cross paths for entirely different reasons. In the summer months, when melting ice creates a flow of nutrients from the surface, deep water currents shift, bringing with them clouds of detritus. Marine snow, dead plankton, fish scales, and organic drift. Both shark and squid converge on these feeding lanes, the squid to hunt smaller organisms, the shark to scavenge anything large enough to matter. There are moments when multiple sharks gather in slow, looping spirals, not in coordinated hunting groups, but as solitary creatures drawn to the same scent trail. A dead whale fallen from the surface might feed them for weeks. Squid arrive too, nibbling at soft tissues, slipping between the heavy bodies of sharks to take their share. In these eerie congregations, predator and prey move side by side, each wary of the other, but unwilling to leave such bounty behind. It's not peace, it's calculation. And so, in this slow-motion theater, the duel continues. Over years, over centuries, across cold plains of seafloor, no eye will ever see. The shark, blind but relentless. The squid, nimble but fragile. Neither supreme, neither safe. Occasionally, a researcher's camera captures it, a flash of white teeth, a cloud of ink, a shadow vanishing into the gloom. But most of this world remains undocumented, its rhythms known only to those that live within it. We know just enough to be fascinated, enough to guess, but rarely to confirm. And perhaps that's what defines this place best. In the Arctic's frozen depths, time distorts, life creeps. Battles unfold in centimeters, not chases. Victory is measured not in dominance, but in persistence. The Greenland shark wins not because it's fastest, but because it never stops drifting. The Arctic squid survives not by overpowering, but by knowing when to disappear. Here, deep beneath the ice, the duel never ends. It just slows down to match the heartbeat of the cold. The Arctic is not defined by its predators, nor by its prey. It is defined by the snow, an element so omnipresent, so quietly relentless, that it shapes every movement, every survival tactic, every death. It is not merely backdrop. It is the most unpredictable predator of them all. Snow in the Arctic is not gentle. It doesn't fall like a peaceful curtain. It arrives on wind knives, slicing across the tundra in horizontal sheets, erasing vision, muting sound, and transforming entire landscapes in minutes. It buries trails, seals breathing holes, swallows nests, and blinds both hunter and hunted. And when the storm passes, What's left behind is often more dangerous than the gale itself. A pristine, lifeless silence hiding everything and revealing nothing. At first glance, the white expanse seems still, but look closer and you'll see the treachery. A caribou calf, light and quick-footed, has buried itself shallowly beside a snow ridge. Its body is tucked beneath the surface, breathing softly under a thin crust. It learned the technique from its mother: lie still, don't move, and wait for the danger to pass. The predator won't see you. The wind will cover your scent, and in many cases this works. But when the snow drifts higher and the crust thickens, the rules change. Air thins. Moisture from the calf's breath turns to ice. The shelter becomes a coffin, and the Arctic takes another body without ever spilling blood. Camouflage, once the calf's advantage, becomes a fatal flaw. Elsewhere, a snowy owl searches the ridges. It has been flying for hours, scanning for movement. The faint flick of a tail, the hop of a vole across the surface. But everything is still. The snowpack has grown overnight. Beneath it, the voles and lemmings tunnel through insulated corridors of warmth, invisible and unreachable. For the owl, vision is useless. It hovers briefly, head turning in slow arcs, then moves on. It will return to its perch, hungry again. The predators know the pattern, but they cannot escape it. A red fox pads silently across the frozen terrain, ears pricked. Its fur is thick with frost, its breath sharp and shallow. It stops, listens. Below the snow, a heartbeat. A vole. It launches into the air and dives, a precise pounce, practiced and honed over 1,000 attempts. But this time, the crust is too deep. The fox punches through snow and comes up with nothing. It lands awkwardly, snorts, and shakes the cold from its whiskers. Behind it, the snow settles again, hiding all trace of the attempt. Starvation becomes a constant presence. Not dramatic, not immediate, just a slow tightening. Energy spent, food missed, effort wasted. Polar bears patrol the ice edge, watching breathing holes that seals have abandoned. The holes remain visible but frozen shut. The bear waits anyway. It waits because instinct says to wait. It waits because it remembers success from years before, but the seal is not coming. It's moved to a different patch of sea ice or died or found a hole the bear hasn't found yet. Still, the bear stands there, wasting muscle and mass in silence. Snow reshapes more than movement. It distorts memory. Reindeer, who once followed known paths between feeding grounds, find those trails gone. Ice has sealed over streams they once drank from. A drift has risen over a moss patch. They dig, hooves scraping the crust, but what lies beneath is ice-locked. The lichen is unreachable. The effort leaves them weaker. One by one, individuals collapse not from violence, but from erosion, of calories, of warmth, of certainty. Even the Arctic foxes, master scavengers, survivors of lean years, begin to fail. The snow, their greatest ally in hiding dens and food caches, becomes too thick. Caches are lost. Scent trails vanish. A kill cached 3 weeks ago beneath a small marker of ice is now buried under a meter of drift. The fox circles the area, sniffing, digging, failing. Somewhere the meat still exists, but it might as well be on another continent. And then comes the blizzard. Not a single gust, but a wall of motion, moving sideways with the roar of a train. Vision drops to nothing. The horizon vanishes. Herds scatter and regroup in confusion. Wings fight turbulence and lose. Owls crash into the ground mid-flight. Wolves, caught between chase and kill, abandon hunts and retreat to shelter. Caribou and musk oxen hunker down in tight circles, backs to the wind, snow curling up their flanks and over their heads. They are not sleeping, they are disappearing. There are no clear winners in these storms. Predators lose track of prey. Prey lose their direction, their food sources, their young. What survives is what endures, not what thrives. When the blizzard fades and the light returns, flat, dim, diffused, the tundra looks untouched. But beneath that white stillness lie the stories. A fox curled in a drift, too exhausted to rise. A ptarmigan chick frozen mid-burrow. A musk ox calf stiff beside its mother's flank. No blood, no violence, just surrender. And yet some will dig out. A seal will claw open a breathing hole. A gerfalcon will spot the first vole of spring. A wolf will find a weakened caribou on the edge of a frozen lake and make the kill that sustains the pack for another week. Survival resumes not with triumph, but with quiet resumption. The Arctic's great trap is not that it kills quickly. It kills slowly, imperceptibly, with indifference. The same snow that hides the predator also hides the prey. The same cold that preserves life in a den also suffocates it. Here, camouflage is both gift and curse. Stillness is both survival and risk. In the end, the greatest threat is not the hunter, not the chase, not the fight. It is the place itself. A white world that gives nothing freely and takes everything on its own terms.